Tick tock, the bell's gonna ring. Marcus dance, it's a wild, wild swing. Grenade with the final call. Chasing dreams before the curtain falls. Options rise, options fall. Risk it big and not at all. Closing playbook, flip the page. Endless numbers set the stage. Gains and losses side by side. Ride away the wave, don't fight the tide. Closing playbook, time to play. Grab your chance, seize the day.
Well, hello everyone. Welcome to the closing playbook for Tuesday, August. Wow, I don't know if I'm behind or ahead. October 21st, 2025. How's everybody doing today? I can't believe we're actually up on the S&P today a little bit after all the back and forth.
Little shake and bake,
Little
little
shake and bake.
trump and dump, and here we are.
There you go.
How's everyone doing?
Doing all right. We got a lot of people praising Alex in the chat today on Beyond.
Well, I think Alex, all credit due on Beyond, but I have to give Secret Dave an even earlier nod. That's why I got into it. I was in the text group with him. I have to tell you, I have never been up 140% on an underlying stock in one day. That has literally never happened to me. I will now expect it on every trade I ever make from here on out.
Right. Everything will now have a new standard of success.
That is my new standard for sure going forward. Yeah, it's been a really kind of wacky day across the board. I've had some really nice positions here with this volatility. Then I have had silver absolutely getting demolished today. So obviously had some things on the flip side. CLSK is down 10%, but we're so far in the money on that. I don't even care about that one's kind of crazy how deep that one is in the money at this point. And then some other mixed bag. I do think Bitcoin is getting interesting. It really started ripping a couple hours ago, and I thought, oh boy, this might be one of those where we rip all the way into the end of the day and have a move. But kind of slowed back down. So I don't know. Lots of different kind of stuff going on. But ultimately, we're not going to worry about too much else right now on this closing playbook session outside of Netflix earnings. That's the big name today. That's what we're going to be focused on. I'm going to walk you through just a little, kind of the history of where we've been recently. And then we'll go ahead and look for a trade. I asked in the Telegram, do you guys kind of want my highest probability trade? Or do you want something, that is more aggressive because it is earnings after all? And sometimes we feel like, hey, you're doing a coin flip. So, you might as well be aggressive. Not really how I actually like to approach earnings. Sometimes you can use the volatility to your advantage, and we'll talk about that as well. So without further ado, let me get my screen share set up here, and we will get rolling. If I can figure out where my other monitor went. There we go. All right. You guys should now see my screen. I got, you guys are telling me in the chat your answer to the question, which is fine, but you really got to get in the habit of using my Telegram where I post that stuff, so I know ahead of time what you want. But here's where we're at on Netflix. I think we have the opportunity for a breakout or a breakdown. While a lot of stocks have participated in a massive move up the last couple of months, Netflix obviously hasn't. It's actually been a pretty boring stock, if you can believe that, for Netflix, for several months now. As you can see, kind of caught in this channel between 1160 and 1250, about $100 channel, which is about a 10% channel for Netflix. And so what we're going to do is we're just going to take a look down memory lane here for earnings on Netflix. So let's start with the most recent one. This was Q2 of 2025. Obviously came out in Q3. 11.06 estimate, revenue 11.8, slightly net positive, earnings slightly net positive as well. And the reaction on the most recent one was down 6% on those, pretty meager numbers. Before that, we had Q1. What you'll notice, by the way, Netflix is an interesting company because what you'll notice is that their revenue estimates are almost always very, very spot on because they're a subscription company. So they pretty much know what they're expected to make for the revenue side of things. And that will usually be very, very accurate, like within 1%. But then sometimes the earnings, based on either what hits their books for that quarter or, cost shuffling or things like that, they can have some big surprises in either direction, which they had a pretty big one in Q1, a 16% beat. And the stock absolutely ripped on that from $960 to about $1,100, about a 12.5% move up in the stock. Then we had Q4 before that. Again, revenue pretty close. This time earnings pretty close as well. For whatever reason, probably due to some future casting, monster move on the stock, about a 25% up move there on pretty much a nothing burger in the actual numbers. So when Graham and I say we don't really care that much about the actual numbers, here's a good example of why. Before that, Q3, again, revenue pretty much in line. Earnings, decent beat. Stock moved up about 11% on the actual announcement. Then we have Q2. Again, revenue pretty much as expected. Earnings, a little bit of a beat. This time, the stock pretty much did nothing, about 1% down over the next 4 or 5 days, and then eventually went down about 4% over the next couple of weeks. Q1 2024, revenue pretty positive. Earnings really positive. Stock down 9%. You guys figuring out yet the numbers don't really mean a whole lot. Then we had earnings just right within that 1% range. And then we actually had a negative. This is the first, by the way, look how much green you see on Netflix on the actual numbers. Revenue almost always in line. They normally just give you a little bit underestimate so they can beat it. And earnings actual pretty good beats. First negative here. And the stock, of course, is up 14% on that. As you would expect. From 490 up into the mid 500.
Of course.
Q3, positive, also up. Okay, so it's not as simple as you can go the other direction either, just to be clear. Sometimes it's positive when it's negative. Sometimes it's positive when it's positive. Let's keep going. Let's get into 2023 Q2. Now we're starting to get to some uglier markets. If you guys go back into 2022, you start seeing some more red here. But earnings, beautiful beat there. Stock down 10%. Next one, revenue down. Very, very minor beat. Nothing. I'm sure the stock won't even move. Okay, down 4.5%. Weird. Next one. Okay, so we've seen some red. Net earnings miss by 78%. Dave, what do you think the stock did?
There's no guessing. There's no guessing, and that's why there's no guessing.
78%. The stock is 11%, of course.
Why you don't play earnings?
Yeah, that's why I don't try to actually look at the numbers and try to make some. Even if you're an insider and you know the numbers, good luck.
Yeah.
Literally.
It's irrelevant.
So yeah, it's wild. So then we had super positive 45% before that also was positive on the stock. Now we're getting into 2022. Really nice earnings beat on 2022. Positive move. That's 3 big ones in a row going backwards, as you can see here. Q1 of 2022, biggest beat yet on the actual net earnings. And of course, the stock was down 37% on our biggest net beat on the actual earnings side yet. Crazy. Oh, wait, we have an even bigger beat. 59% beat on the earnings. Revenue as expected, but absolute monster beat on the earnings. Oh, stock down 26%. Again, makes perfect sense, right? And then the last one I have for you, Q3 2021, positive, and the stock went up 4.5%. So hopefully you guys have some idea of just going through that, where we're not really trying to say, hey, fundamentally, we think earnings are going to do this, or fundamentally, we think earnings are going to do that. The two, I think, big takeaways that you can have are, number one, it's going to be a lot more the forward projection, what they're saying on the calls, the big dangling carrots. I mean, Elon is great at this. Hey, guys, earnings are terrible. The cars don't turn on, but we've got this thing coming, and the stock's going to go up 10%. He's great at that. Some of the other guys are great. NVIDIA, Jensen is always really strong on earnings calls, and so that's a big part of it. The other thing that I think is worth noting that I think just tends to get kind of shoved under the rug often is that the sentiment going into earnings often is a bigger player than anything else. Like, you have these market conditions where the market's kind of beaten down and ugly, but it's starting to get healthier. And then fan favorites, they're just looking for a win in the stock market. And that's often when you'll see the Apples and the Googles and the Teslas and the NVIDIAs have really nice beats on the actual performance, not necessarily the numbers, but on the performance, because it's like you're in a situation where the stock market is ready to recover, and they want their fan favorites to lead the way, and you just get a lot of optimism in there, and boom, the market runs. And then you'll get other conditions where the market is starting to get very fearful. It's starting to turn negative, and it really almost doesn't matter how positive the earnings announcement is or how positive people are. The market is basically pre-decided. We're selling things. This market's getting ugly. We're ahead of it. Earnings is a great catalyst to do it. And so you see a lot of that kind of, prerequisite anticipation have as much to do with it as anything else. Now, the other thing to take away, the third thing I guess you could take away, is that for the most part, Netflix is a big mover. I mean, you guys probably already know this, but 26%, 37%, we'll get up closer, 14% to current time, 11%, 4.5%, 10%, 17%, 14%, 9%, 1%. There's an underperformer there. 11%, 25%. I'm going backwards towards current, by the way. I'm moving back toward 2025. 12.5%, 6%. And over the last 20 or whatever I just showed you, only basically one move below 5% on the expected move. So for me, Netflix is more a mover than it is a predictor. And so I think if you guys want my high probability trade, then I would do the trade where we just expect the market to move. We take a two-way trade on Netflix. We basically say, hey, let's go within the expected move, and let's not look to make 100% on Netflix, even though, as you saw in some of those moves, sure, there's lots of moves where you could potentially make 100%, 200% if you got it right at the right time on the right announcement. But there's almost every single time where you would have been able to make a 30% or a 40% win just by trading the net movement. So that's kind of my first inclination there. Now, I'll post, by the way, the sheet in the chat if you want. I'll also put that in the opening playbook. Just if you want to trade today, by all means, you could follow my trade or look at something else. But if you just want to kind of consider and map out your own trading, maybe you want to even think about trading Netflix, tomorrow after the announcement, and look, hey, does Netflix normally continue or does it normally fade off? You can use that doc as a little bit of a cheat sheet if you want, just going through the last 18, 20 earnings, whatever I have in there for you. But what I'm going to do, folks, is I'm going to recommend a two-way trade on Netflix, and let's go ahead and pull up the brokerage and take a look. Now, one of the reasons, by the way, that I am interested in a two-way trade beyond just that we see Netflix tends to move. Obviously, that's the number one thing. We tend to see Netflix make big moves. More often than not, it's going to beat the expected move. But the other reason is I actually do see two narratives that could very easily play out. I see a positive narrative for Netflix, that it's been a great stock. It's beat earnings continually. It's really one of the best stocks out there, but it hasn't really participated as much in the recent run-up. And so it's kind of a catch-up scenario. It's kind of an opportunity for Netflix to show good numbers once again, have a positive outperformance, and then make a big move that kind of catches up. So that's one thing I could definitely see on Netflix. But the other thing that I could see is that we are seeing that fear enter the market, regardless of the market being near all-time highs, we are seeing that there's fear out there and that people are waiting for the other shoe to drop. They're concerned. And so this is one of those scenarios where I could see the market kind of pre-decide, hey, I don't care how good the earnings are. I'm looking, especially for these big known names that everyone, not a consumer staple like Coke, but a name that people are used to betting on. Hey, let's shove this thing back down. Let's get away from this thing. Let's take profit because the fear is very real in the market. So I very legitimately see both narratives. So those are the two reasons that I actually think a two-way trade makes sense. And the way that we can do this trade is how I kind of have it pre-set up right here. What I have, and by the way, one of the things that I like to do on a bullish stock with a two-way trade is I like to weight it to the downside a little bit more. In other words, it needs to move more to the downside than to the upside. Why? Well, because with a bullish stock and positive momentum, if you get a really ugly move, usually it's going to be bigger than just a nice, solid, positive move. So I weight it to the downside on a two-way trade. But the way that we're trading this is we're looking at the expected move, which is about $83. That's about a 6% expected move. And we want to trade like half of that. So we don't want to actually need it to hit the expected move on either side. We want it to basically, as long as it gets half of that expected move, we should be able to turn a profit. So how do you do that? Well, you go up about $40 on the stock, which would be about a $12.80, and you set a debit spread at $12.75 and $12.80. A debit spread at $12.75 and $12.80 means that anything above $12.80 is going to be profitable. It's going to be worth $5 by Friday's expiration. And that gives you your bullish part of that kind of box. Then you go down about $40, although I'm going to go down a little bit more, like I was just saying, and it's at $12.40, so that would be near $1,200. I'm going to go down to $11.90, so I'm going to go about a $50, still well inside the expected move, by the way, and I'm going to go to the $11.85 and the $11.90. Okay, you can see here I already have it set up in my broker, and what that means is that anything below $11.85, about a $50 down, is also going to be worth $5. So our profit potential here on this two-way trade is $5 if it finishes above $12.80, or $5 if it finishes below $11.85. And what we do is we put them both together in one ticket, one trade called a reverse iron condor or an iron condor, or a whole bunch of different custom spread things depending on what your broker will call them. And we do it as one ticket that acts together as like a box trade, again, above that level or below the level. So I'm going to type that in the chat, and then I'll bring up my chart on TradingView and kind of draw the box for you so you can see it as well.
I've got it typed out if you want to just double check.
Wow, you are a legend, Dave. All right, you want to put that in, and then I can...
What are we calling the debit at?
So it should be about $3.50, but I'm going to start mine lower. I'm going to start mine at $3.40 and try to crawl it up because, again, risk reward here is paramount. The less you can get, the less you pay, the better. So this trade is going to pay out, what is that, like 40%? So how's my math on that? So it's going to pay us out like 40% if we can get filled in that 345, 350 range on a move that's about half as much as the market maker plan move. And that's really what I'm going for. So let me stop sharing this screen, just share my TradingView chart real quick here so you can kind of see it. By the way, one thing before I go, let me zoom out here and show you this. This is the monthly chart on Netflix, which, by the way, looks phenomenal. If you guys never look at monthly charts, I highly recommend every once in a while, pull up a monthly chart. They're great. They kind of put some perspective into your brain visually, and Netflix looks phenomenal on a monthly chart. But let's go back to the daily chart, and you can see this is that range I was saying for the last few months we're stuck in. And what we're going to do, folks, is we're going to build a box around this. And I'm just going to fill in this box here with my top price and my bottom price. So 1280 is the top, and then 1185 is the bottom. So it's a fairly big box, as you can see. Fairly big box. Notice it's bigger on the downside than it is on the upside. And there's a perfectly good reason for that. I expect a miss to be bigger than a win, plain and simple. I also will note that we have some resistance here at 1260 that does concern me a bit. But again, Netflix does have a pretty good history of moving at least 4 or 5%. And as long as we get 4 or 5%, we are going to be in a winning position on this trade. There was one trade in the last 18 that didn't move at least 4% that I saw. You guys can check my math on that, check my stats. But as far as I saw, within just 3 days of the earnings announcement, I only saw one out of the last 18 that didn't move at least 4%. So I feel pretty good about this trade. The other thing to mention about Netflix, one of the things I like about getting in on a Tuesday trade, is that Netflix is a stock that can continue moving after earnings. So let's say we get earnings, it kind of shakes out, it's positive but not crazy positive, and we end up at 1260 tomorrow. Well, Netflix is a stock that can easily rip to 1280, 1290, and 1300 by the end of the week on regular trading days without necessarily needing that earning catalyst to help keep it moving. We actually saw many examples of that. It moved 4% the first day, but then 3% the next day and 2% the day after, and cumulatively moved like a 10% move. So Netflix has that going to its advantage as well. So that is our Netflix box trade. This is what it looks like here. And what we want to see is a move all the way outside the box or all the way to the downside or all the way outside the box to the upside. Now, one more thing. If we get a massive move, let's say we get a move all the way up here to 1350 immediately, and that's where the market is at the open, I will close it early, okay? Because it should be worth, high fours at that point, 450, 460, 480. And if I can get that in one day guaranteed, I will go ahead and take the profit. If it's right around 1280, 1290, well, then I'm going to wait a little while, see if we can build and use some time decay to our advantage at that point beyond tomorrow into the end of the week and try to get some extra value that way. Okay, any questions about this trade? Any questions? Someone asked about being assigned. So with a debit spread, you could technically be assigned at any time, but if you were assigned early, it would actually mean a full profit. So you would actually get that $5 profit that we're going for automatically if you were assigned. So I highly, highly doubt that anyone would assign you early on this situation. But if they did, you should tip your cap to them, send them a thank you card in the mail, and take your full profit because that's what you would get. Now, the only other risk would be if it expires between 1275, 1280, or between 1185, 1190. If it actually expires there Friday at 4 p.m., then you're not in the situation of an early assignment where you can exercise the other side. You're at where one's going to expire and the other will be exercised. And in that case, you want to close it before the closing bell on Friday. The good news is that's very easy. Just check Friday, closing playbook 3:30 or 3 p.m. or whatever your schedule's like, and just make sure if Netflix is close to the top of your line or the bottom of your line that you are closed out of the trade ahead of time. Okay, so that's what I would recommend on that front.
So we had a question about this versus a butterfly. You might want to just explain the difference as to why we're not doing one. But
well, this is just a plain and simple box. We want it to move higher or lower. A butterfly, you can lean in one direction or the other, but really you're trying to get more of a neutral move or like a neutral bullish spotted move where you kind of want price to pin at 1260 or something like that. We don't care about where the price is going to pin or anything else. We just care that it has a breakout move, that it moves 3% in one direction or 4% in the other direction plus. If it moves 10% up, great. If it moves 20% down, great. We don't really care a whole lot there as long as we get the move. And that's what I like about the two-way trade. We're not pinning a certain price or making any kind of prediction of where the price is going to end up. We're simply saying, give us a move. If you want to put just a target on it so that regardless, if it makes a big move, you're out, probably about 450 is the range that you're going to want to go for. The reason that I don't do that is because for all we know, Netflix could open at $200 up or $200 down tomorrow. And then you're going to be able to get like 490 out of it. But if you want, and you just want to get it in position for a good till canceled, you can do that. Probably around 450 is going to be that good medium ground of getting enough profit on it to make it worthwhile, but also where you can, automatically get out.
Could always do 490 and then change it to 450.
Yeah, you can do that. You can crawl it down for sure. Gina said, "Can you see my question?"
Yeah, her question
above?
is about earnings being aftermarket close tomorrow. Wouldn't you want to wait to see like where the box would be placed tomorrow instead of today?
I believe Netflix earnings are today. If not, Gina, I've stumbled into a big mess and got the entire trade a day early. Gina just made me panic. Let me see. Am I an entire day off on our closing playbook?
I don't know.
Gina, they're today. What are you messing with my mind for, Gina? How could you do this to me? I just had a whole panic attack that I did my entire lesson on the wrong day, Gina.
You handled it well.
All right.
You might have gotten pale. We wouldn't have been able to
I have not gotten filled. What's that? Oh, pale. You said pale.
I said,
okay. Go ahead. I don't know if I'm lagging or if you're lagging, but go ahead.
No, we're good. We're good. It was all unimportant.
Okay. Dawn asked if this would be an iron condor. Some brokers will count it as an iron condor because it's 4 legs. Other brokers won't. Sorry, I wish I could give you a more straightforward answer than that. It's literally broker dependent. Thinkorswim/Schwab will call it an iron condor because of the 4 sides, even though really it's like more like a reverse iron condor in reality. So just kind of depends on your broker and exactly what your situation is. The price is moving a little bit here, showing a mid price in the low 350s. I'm going to go up a few pennies to 348, see if I can get filled. And then I've got about 5 minutes to crawl this thing up. I'm not going to pay more than 350, folks. But what I might do is increase one of the legs. I might actually go up $5 on the bullish leg, and that will get me in below 350s. I'd rather actually get the risk reward right than the exact $5 increment correct. So if you guys wanted to do an aggressive trade, which the aggressive traders lost the bet on the ratio, but I'll still let you know, if you wanted to do in the aggressive trade, you could essentially take that same box and just do the upside trade of it. What you would get is actually not that advantageous, in my opinion. The 1275, 1280 single is still going to cost about 190. So you're not going to get a 400% win by just being one-sided there, but you will get, 150% win compared to a 40% ROI. So if you wanted to do it, you could just take the first part of it. That would be the bullish side. And for me, I would be net bullish, but not massively. Like I was saying, I actually see a very good narrative that makes sense to me in both directions. Not to give you a cop-out answer. I try to avoid cop-out answers on these sessions and give you a strong opinion when I have one. But this is an occasion where I really see a narrative that, with fear where it is, people could kind of pre-decide that we're waiting for the other shoe to drop. These big techie, exciting names are going to get sold off. But at the same time, I can see Netflix catching up to a whole bunch of missed territory on another really good earnings. I could see Netflix at $13.50 tomorrow. So, I mean, there's a lot of potential in my mind in both directions, and that's why I did the two-way trade.
Maria asked if they could still get in this tomorrow morning, and I was about to say if the price hasn't changed, but we're really playing the earnings tonight, so it would be kind of a different trade tomorrow.
Yeah, I would not trade it tomorrow, except for in the super unique scenario where you could get a great price when it already made a big move, which wouldn't even happen, and your downside part of the trade almost wouldn't make sense. But outside of, hey, it's just such a good price that I still want to do it, I really wouldn't recommend it. This pretty much is an earnings reaction trade. And the reason we like these kind of, I should say an earnings, how would I say that? It's not a reaction trade. It's like a prediction trade expecting a reaction. I don't know what the proper syntax for that is, but the reason I don't trade like a true reaction is the numbers I showed you earlier. Knowing the data and trying to kind of from that pull out, hey, I think because of a beat, it's going to do X, Y, and Z. I just don't think that's fundamentally sound. I think what you can look for is expectations of moves, and you can look for historic trends. Like some stocks have really good history of performing well in the fourth quarter, or in the second quarter. And so some of that you might just say is random. It's not necessarily statistically valid. But as you dig in, a lot of times there's reasons. Certain companies actually operate their books in a certain way where, certain earnings are going to look better at certain times, and you see that happen. And so you say, okay, I'm not going to figure out exactly why their, earnings corrections are going to be so positive in the middle of the year versus the end of the year, but I'll take the trend for what it is, and I'll try to go for 11 in a row because that's just what, how the market has moved. So there are things like that you can do, but I'm not someone who's going to look at the fundamentals and say, hey, because of this, I have a big prediction, for Netflix. Their beat means X, Y, and Z.
I would call it a reaction intensity play because we're betting that it's going to be intense enough to move 40 points. We're just not calling the direction.
Okay, there you go. That's a reasonable name. I won't mention the other name that you came up with today. Wow, closing bell. That jumped on me quick and I didn't get filled. Well, I just put together 38 slides for you guys to show you a Netflix trade and then got distracted on closing playbook and didn't get filled myself. So if Netflix ends up ripping tomorrow and this trade is a winner, then I will remind you all of all the hard work I put in so that you guys can get trades, even when I miss them. If it's a loser, I'll say, see, that's why I didn't take it. I knew this was going to happen. Either way, I'm covered for tomorrow. But hey, by the way, speaking of trades that we got filled on today, the SPY battered all around the day, but you guys should have got filled on overnight options around 1 p.m. Let me know. That keeps our really nice streak alive in spite of some crazy conditions. So should have a whole bunch of you who are in overnight options who had a winner, even though the SPY, I think today, let's see what we ended up at. Let's see. SPX ended up at a peak move here. Let me see if I can find it. I don't have my other screen up, but a peak move of somewhere around 67.47 on the SPX, and then like a low of the day all the way down in the 67.30 range. Is that right? 67.30, 67.50, something like that on the SPX. So big old wide range, lots of craziness in between, but a overnight option target nonetheless, which we will take. So we're going to trying to keep good. Yeah, that sounds good.
Yeah.
Keep trying to keep that streak alive, Dave, is what we're going to try to do on overnight options. So if you guys are not in overnight options, we'll play that presentation for you at the end of closing playbook today. If you are missing out and you still have no idea what everyone's talking about on most of the opening playbook mornings when people jump in and say, hey, overnight options hit or rang the cash register today, we'll give you a chance at that here in a minute. Before we jump into that, I do want to mention this gold Bitcoin potential rotation. We'll probably talk a little bit more about it tomorrow as well. And so, in opening playbook, there's a couple things I want to cover. One of them is I'm going to keep an eye on the volume of Bitcoin. And you guys are saying Netflix is starting to move. Let's go check it out. Boom. There it is. We've got a mover. That's about a $100 move in
Shake and bake, baby.
2 minutes flat. We'll see if this continues some momentum or flips the other direction, but we're close to a $100 move already on Netflix. But with gold and Bitcoin, I think keeping an eye on the volume there is going to be really interesting, and to see if we actually get a kind of a transfer from gold as we're getting billions and billions of dollars. Obviously that pulled out here just in the last 24 hours. Does some of that money make its way into Bitcoin? And if so, is that what kind of pushes this Q4 movement up on Bitcoin? And there's a couple interesting ways that I think we could play that as a pair, and not like a direct pair trade like we would typically do, but a couple more unique ideas on gold and Bitcoin. So keep an eye out for that. We'll talk about that a little bit more. But thanks again for being on Closing Playbook. Hopefully, for those of you who got in the Netflix trade, we either get a massive reversal and finish above 1240, or we stay down below 1185. But either way, I hope you guys get a winner. Unfortunately, I won't be able to celebrate with you if you get a winner, because I literally didn't get filled on the trade as I was distracted covering Closing Playbook. But either way, thanks for being here. And if you guys have not checked out Overnight Options, make sure you check it out right here.
A little over a year ago, I received an urgent call from options expert Nate Tucci claiming that he discovered a new way of trading. All right, so I got this call, and then he said it's one that allows us to place a quick trade before the markets close, right? Just at the end of the day, wait no more than 24 hours, and when everything works out as planned, watch as the position automatically closes out with right around $500 overnight, more than 80% of the time. Now, after reviewing the data and placing a few of these trades myself, in fact, I've got one open right now. It's up 19% at the moment. I immediately had Nate get on my daily trade room on the opening playbook to shed lights on these overnight options. And if you were there and you paid attention, chances are you are loving these overnight options, as the live published trade results have been even better than we could have ever imagined. In fact, every day in the opening playbook, we get people at 5, 10, 12, 20 people bragging about how well they're doing here on the overnight options. Beverly up 6,000. Brandon, 27 trades overnight, 25 wins, 2 losers. Love this trade. Catherine, look at this, 87%. James, 35%. Jennifer, $869. Rock, you guys get it over and over again. Look at that. David, 500-ish a few times. And hundreds of more stories just like them. Now, as much as I'd love to spend the entire class just bragging on the success stories that we've been getting from students almost every single day, including that 81.2% win rate over the first year of live trade alerts, not a back test, real-time trade alerts, and the $30,000 in profit in the model portfolio so far, it's actually north of $30,000. Well, we've got so much more in store for you today, because thanks to those advancements in technology, the ones I was teasing just a moment ago, $100,000, over $100,000 worth of live options data feeds, and some help from artificial intelligence, we're now able to take the shocking data behind these daily opportunities and merge it with an overnight market phenomenon that dates all the way back to the 1990s. And now what we're doing is amplifying those overnight options results you just saw. We're like the Fed is putting steroids in the economy. We're putting steroids in these overnight options. And this gives us more payouts than we could have ever imagined. I'm talking 3 to 4 times the opportunities at hand. Now, of course, we'll cover more on this in just a moment, so don't go anywhere, especially if you're currently a member. But before we get there, Nate, let's lay the groundwork on these overnight options. Why don't you show us how they work?
Well, I'd love to. And like you hinted at, I mean, these are all thanks to a unique phenomenon in the stock market that we sneak peeked a little bit there, and one that gives us a daily opportunity to target right around $500 in less than 24 hours. And yes, we are talking about a daily opportunity, because this is not a once in a blue moon type of opportunity. It's not once a month, doesn't set up once a week. Actually, we get a chance to target these 4 times every single week. For example, let's actually go back and take a look at April. Now, if you remember, let's just say that April was not exactly a pretty month. Over a 2-month stretch, the S&P slid north of 20%, considered an official bear market. NASDAQ was down 23%. Dow Jones was falling off a cliff. I mean, everything was ugly. And we got those Liberation Day tariffs that sent us down into the 5th worst drop in over 100 years in the stock market. But just to be clear, that literally did not matter to me or to the students following along with these trades. So if you started out with $2,500, you're not compounding, you're not scaling, you're not flipping all into the next trade. Here's some of the trades you would have got. So on Monday, April 21st, we'd have placed the first trade of the week. Now, folks could have automatically clocked out with $551 overnight from that trade. Then right back to the well, you plop down the next trade that same day at the end of the day. This time, $964 overnight. Rinse and repeat day after day. Wednesday, $543, real trade, by the way. Thursday going into Friday, $551, real trade. And all in all, it is a great week.
Yeah, Nate, I mean, we're talking $2,610 in overnight income that week. That's enough to double the stake. Now, that's north of $2,000 that obviously could have gone towards the groceries, the mortgage, the savings account, maybe some Danny Dimes rookie cards, which I've been stacking up on. Now, $2,000 in a week might sound like a lot of money to some of you, and maybe for others, it's not even noticeable. But regardless of who you are, where you stand, the one thing that I really love here is that we're not talking about hypothetical trades here. Each and every example shared today is based on real trades that Nate sent out to members and personally placed in real time. In fact, I've taken a few myself. I've got one on right now. And speaking of the members, your top students have been able to see results just like that over and over again. Here's Kevin, who said made over $3,000 yesterday with the overnight options. That's a one-day return for Kevin. Crushed it. Here's Ken, who said all winners in every trade. I'm averaging $2,500 to $3,000 per trade. So obviously you can start small or you can scale up here like Ken and Kevin did. $3,000 a trade. Very happy. Dennis here, 13 trades so far, 10 wins, $7,000 in profit. I've been trading a long time and never really thought about the approach Nate teaches. I like the limited risk and I really like the set it and forget it process. And remember, all of that came from clicking a few buttons each afternoon and then watching as the position automatically closed out within 24 hours.
Yeah, I mean, these are real. It's as real as it gets. Real trades, real alerts that people are taking with real money. And my hope is by the end of our class today, we'll be able to reach at least one more person, hopefully a few more than that, and just help them start seeing some of these same results. Now, of course, let's be very clear. Not every trade is going to be a winner, guys. In fact, losers are part of the game. As always, we never leverage ourselves. We don't go all in saying, hey, tonight's going to be the night. That's not how we trade this. But the good news is overnight opportunities hit with about an 81.2% success rate so far. So, you're winning about 4 out of 5 days that you put down cash on these trades. And folks get to place a new trade each day the markets are open. So, for example, let's actually just keep going into that next week in April there. Now, while most people are fretting recession, thinking about the global trade war, inflation, everything was getting crazy. If you guys remember in April, you could have literally ignored all that and instead just focused on these overnight income opportunities. Takes about 2 minutes each day to take advantage of them. So day one, $522. Day two, $445. Day three, $869. And then just finished off the week really strong there. Pretty much nothing burger day with $588 overnight.
Well, Nate, we're talking about another $2,425, nearly a double, hitting the bank for the folks following along automatically, which again, that's not all that crazy considering that many of your students have routinely posted even better results than that just recently. They posted it every day in the opening playbook, Nate. Every day. I get jealous. Here we have Henry saying netted 23%, $5,000 on it yesterday. It was sweet. Henry, that is
sweet. That is sweet.
Robin J says 16 winners in a row, small account. Robin started with $2,000 and is now sitting at $8,000. That's what, a 300% return on the account investment. Very, very impressive. And then there's Cheryl. This one, I mean, my goodness, up $20,000 for this week following you. That is just outstanding. So, folks, if you're looking for a new way to trade, one that doesn't require a ton of effort, but has shown the power to pay almost every single day, then look no further. Because in the next few minutes, Nate is going to walk you through exactly how these overnight income opportunities work, that age-old market phenomenon that makes it all possible, and the newest options data set that now allows people like you to automatically close out so far with an 81% accuracy on the live trades. And get this, he'll even invite you to trade the next overnight income opportunity live with him, targeting another $500 or bigger payout today. And then plus, if that's not good enough for you, if you stick around, you're going to get a first look inside the new software that's now amplifying these daily opportunities. This gives us 3 to 4 times the daily profit opportunities, all automated, starting this very week, starting today for you guys. So welcome to the Overnight Income Project. We really probably should put a 2.0 here on this chart because it's just been upgraded and it is going crazy. Now, like I mentioned a moment ago, my name is Graham Lindman. You might recognize me from the Perfect Income Trade, which has reached over 100,000 people worldwide. Maybe you've heard of my wrap orders, which is, I think, is a great way of trading. Now, given my trade track record, I normally don't take recommendations from other people. But when it comes to Nate, I always listen. And that's because despite having one of the most impressive track records that I've seen in the world of finance, including publicly growing a $10,000 stake to north of $50,000 in about 4 months' time, and also quietly generating over $100,000 in his slow and steady income portfolio last year alone, well, you're not going to find Nate on Kramer's Mad Money. You're not going to see him on Squawk Box or CNN's Your Money. You're more likely to catch him hanging out with his family at the beach, or maybe at a football game like he did this weekend, watching Penn State, then you'll be catching him in New York City. But even though he's not strapped to a desk in a skyscraper in New York wearing a suit and tie, he's still been able to routinely deliver for folks over and over again across his strategies. especially with the overnight options. And guys, I'm not kidding. We asked the team, hey, do we have any stories from overnight options that have been documented? I think it was about 15, 20 pages worth of stories just like these here. And while we've enjoyed stories like those from his very best students, well, today Nate is taking things to a whole new level. He's supercharging this discovery, pairing it with what could be the most powerful market force over the last 3 decades, allowing everyday folks to target right around $500 in overnight income almost every single day, and then inviting you to join him live and watch over his shoulder as he takes the next trade right before your eyes today. And you can follow along if you want to.
Yeah, and I love doing those live trade rooms with members. We have a ton of fun. We get to hear a lot of stories, a lot of recent wins, some of those ones that you posted. And, I love having new folks in there as well, because obviously it gives me that confidence that, hey, people are really coming along, they're learning, and we're seeing, people have like life-changing stories, which is the most humbling, crazy thing ever. Just, you're in a Zoom call and you hear someone saying like, hey, this really like made an actual difference in my life. And a great example of that is what we just saw recently, because we had July. Now in the middle of July, markets were grinding higher, but then we started to kind of get that plateau, if you guys remember, and regular working folks still getting the worst of inflation, all those reports coming out, groceries still high, all that kind of stuff. But with the overnight option trade, once again, none of that actually matters to us, because each and every day we get that new opportunity. Like Monday, July 14th, $798 would hit the account from the overnight trade automatically. Then folks could place the next trade, again, automatically cashed out for $535 on a pretty ugly looking candle there. Then done it all again, quick trade, $543 automatically deposited on Wednesday. Then Thursday, going into Friday, we get one more opportunity for overnight income, and boom, it hit $520 within 24 hours again. Now, of course, you all know, like any strategy, there's bound to be winners and losers. I'm not trying to show you, hey, we never lose. But in this case, the win streak did actually keep rolling right along. July 21st, $528 in overnight income. Then July 22nd, $513 in overnight income. Then July 23rd, $520. Then July 24th, $535. And by the way, it kept rolling into the next week as well. July 28th, $798. Then July 29th, again, kind of an ugly candle there, but didn't matter for us, $535 overnight. Then July 30th, $520 overnight. So yeah, pretty nice.
Nate, that's 11 straight winners in a row. And many of those came on red market days. We saw where the candle was red. In other words, we're talking about days where the stock market fell lower, yet you still won. Now, you're going to need to show us how this is even possible, because that's a jaw-dropping hot streak. And while some folks here might think that we're just cherry picking the best of the bet, the truth is a streak like that actually isn't all that uncommon for you with the overnight options. You actually had another 11 trade win streak the month before. You hit 10 in a row back in May. And I saw someone post in the chat, they did 12 in a row themselves.
Yeah, I mean, we've definitely had our fair share of really hot streaks. Those are a lot of fun when you get rolling. But just to be like fully transparent, we had a great couple of different streaks in July, but we did have 2 losers as well there. So you have to take those into account. And if you just stuck with it, you invested $2,500 every day, there's an opportunity without actually compounding at all, you would have ended up with $4,575 in overnight income for the month of July.
And that's including the losers, right? That's the net.
Yeah, so the net, and that's, without compounding. That's not like rolling into your next trade at all.
Nate, that's a really outstanding number. I mean, think about it. The average person brings home just shy of $5,000 each month. But unfortunately, in today's economy, that's really not enough to get ahead. It's enough to like survive. That's why 61% of Americans say they're living paycheck to paycheck. And it's been horrible for retirees or soon to be retirees, because thanks to inflation, $1 million in the retirement account just won't cut it anymore. That used to be the magic number. That's what I was told growing up.
Yep.
But now they say you need an extra $800,000 in the bank just to retire comfortably. And that's left millions of people forced to delay their retirement 5, 10, even 15 years out. And Nate, as you've been saying for months now, this isn't the American dream anymore. It's more like the American nightmare. But by the looks of it, again, your overnight options, which came from these are real trades, guys, that folks just like you took in real time. We're looking at what could really start to make a big difference. $4,575 in overnight income from July, not cherry picking, including the losers too. Now, I know that's not retire overnight type of money, and that's not what we're here to talk about today. But that would have been enough to nearly double the average monthly income for the average Joe. So there you see on the left, You don't have overnight options, you make almost $5,000 a month. You add in the overnight options, you've nearly doubled that take-home pay. And that gives folks a little more freedom in their day-to-day life. And in the month of July, maybe that means throwing $4,000 into the savings account, booking a round of golf with you and some of the best friends, and then going and grabbing dinner after the round wraps up.
Yeah, well, it's obviously those type of results that get me so excited about this overnight income project. And I get even more excited just thinking about what people are about to see, which is how we amplify the results over the coming year. And I think this is one of the coolest breakthroughs we've had of all the technology stuff that we've talked about. So I'll cover that here in a couple of minutes. I think it's going to blow the lid off, this project, both for newcomers, but also for my current students. So if you guys haven't seen all the details, I've sneak peeked a little bit, but there's actually more to come. So make sure you stay tuned for that. And don't forget, the icing on the cake, because I'm also going to be inviting a handful of folks in here, and it will only be a handful for now, to go ahead and actually take today's trade with me live, targeting right around $500 by tomorrow morning. And obviously, just again, I think we've said this 10 times already, but I'm not going to guarantee tomorrow's trade is going to be a winner. But given the 81.2% hit rate from our live results on, 200 overnight opportunities, I'm obviously as confident as I could be going into any trade as I am with overnight options. Now, listen, I know there's quite a few people concerned about the economy. Some of our experts talked about that, what the government is doing, and if a major recession is right around the corner. So first off, let me just let you know that I do think it's a legitimate concern. I think it's smart for people to start kind of saying, hey, X, Y, and Z could be on the table, because the last thing you want is to hold the bag, right? Sitting there in the market, waiting for it to recover for 10 years like the 70s, or even in 2022, where you just lost 3 years of time. But I actually think that is why the overnight income project is such good timing for right now when there is so much uncertainty, because not only is our money not tied up for months, weeks, or even days, it's in one day, out the next. So we're avoiding a ton of the overall market risk. We don't really care what the trends are, but it's also a way to help everyday folks target a couple $100 or more nearly every single day the market is open. And it's regardless of which way the markets are headed, whether they're up, down, or flat. We really don't care. Like the next month, we just went through July, a phenomenal month. Let's take a look at August. Now, at the beginning of the month, stocks were red hot. You guys probably remember. So again, let's take a very different looking month and say you start with $2,500 and you would have cashed in almost every single day. Just check out the real-time trades, real alerts, published trades, verified, that you could have taken $597, then $535, then $528, $528 again, $724 there. Then we got the middle of August, right? Got a little tumble to the downside. Well, you could have actually done really well. $932 there, $568 there, $371 even on that really ugly candle, and then $543, $535 following through on those next ones. And then just to finish the month strong, stocks started, kind of grinding sideways. Okay, what would you have done if you followed along? Well, 528, 520, 520, and when you consider everything all across August, you have gone 13 for 16, even with some of those really ugly gaps down. So if you had 5K invested, no compounding, no scaling, you would have still ended up at over a double there, $5,087 in overnight income, including those losers.
Well, Nate, that's an extra $5,000 for the month. I mean, if you think about it, I just gave you the number of the average take-home pay. That's kind of like having another full-time job without actually picking up any extra hours. Now, Nate, I know that you're a reasonable guy and you're very clear with everyone that there's winners and losers along the way. You've said that a few times. So again, if you're expecting to win 100% of the time and become an overnight millionaire, this isn't for you. But for folks who are willing to stick to the strategy, which I know we have hundreds, if not thousands of members now following along with this, they've took these trades in August, weathering the good and the bad. Well, the results were really incredible. We're talking about a $5,087 opportunity for the month. And keep in mind, folks, that would have happened when the markets were falling down, they were going up, and they were completely flat. We had a mixed bag that month. Now, Nate, this seems like the perfect strategy for the current market we're in, at least for the uncertainty that we're all feeling right now. So tell us, how exactly does this overnight income opportunity work?
Well, before I show you how it actually works, I think people, if they don't know, kind of need to understand how this all started. Because a while back, I published a brand new strategy that hit the world by storm. Now, in a nutshell, what makes that other strategy so special and so unique is that all you need is a very, very small move, about a 1% move in the stock market, at any point during a 2-week window. And if you hit that small move, the brokerage should automatically cash you out and pay about a 50% ROI on the trade, even if the stock actually eventually drops during the trade. So that's called automated options. And most people have probably heard me talk about it. Now, this new way of automated trading, getting paid for the brokerage to take those targets out, really transformed investing for me and for hundreds and now thousands of people out there.
Yeah, and I mean, the stories from the automated options are in the list as well. Modi here, 9 for 9, made $11,000 in 9 weeks. Here we have Roger S. is unbelievable, up ahead $18,000. And that's because your trade alerts have been off the charts good. I mean, just look at the first 6 months of live trade data, hit 82% win rate, model portfolio up 18 grand, exactly in line with what Roger, one of your students, reported on his end. Now that's like making $1,000 per week.
Well, honestly, I mean, when we got automated options rolling, I really never imagined trading it any other way. But that was before I stumbled across some really shocking market data. We hinted at it earlier that allows us to supercharge those exact kind of results. This is an overnight phenomenon that gives us the same type of opportunity, but this time hitting in 24 hours or less. Now, this was September 9th, 2024. I was sitting on a panel with a guy some of you guys know, Chris Pulver, who's a money manager and really understands these market technicals. We had about 1,000 people on that conference call, and he shared some data, which, I had seen before, but never really had that light bulb moment until I was sitting there thinking about it. Now, what he warned, again, I talked about this a little bit ago, is that trading during the day is actually a huge mistake. There's really no money to be made for most people. However, overnight, the stock market typically makes all of the strongest gains. And that simple concept, the data behind that, was really the key insight that unlocked everything for me. Now, let me show you exactly what I mean, because it's pretty shocking. If you look at this chart, this goes all the way back to 1993 through the current times, okay? And what you're looking at is the average market return from trading during the day, so that's like 9:30 a.m. to 4 p.m., versus overnight. So the blue line shows you what happens during those regular market hours, 9:30 to 4 p.m. That's a zero return from during the day. So even though it's 30 years of market data, it's actually zero return. However, the orange line is the movement that happens when the market is technically closed, when people think that nothing's happening overnight. That's actually where all that movement. So you can see almost no money to be made during the day. All of the best returns actually happen overnight. Now, again, we've had that data for years, proving overnight trading is where the actual movement in the money is, but no one I know was able to actually take advantage of it on a nightly basis. And the reason is simple. Traditionally, if you're going to trade options, you need a big move to make any sort of meaningful money. Unfortunately, that overnight phenomenon is not going to give you, 3% moves a day, right? We're talking about 30 years of data. So 0.2, 0.3, maybe 0.5 or 1% on a big overnight move. But really, that's where the light bulb moment hit me thinking about that exact scenario, because I already had a strategy that works by automatically cashing in on those tiny moves over a 2-week period. So what if there was a way to leverage the same approach as automated options, but simply do it on a much shorter time frame overnight? Not only would that allow me to decrease my overall market risk, because now I'm not even worried about market trends, I'm not worried about Liberation Day. I'm only holding overnight, but it would also allow me to multiply those profit opportunities each and every week, because we get a chance to do this almost every single day that the markets are open. So I began backtesting this with the team, and then we started trading it live. And I was really actually shocked at how easy it was to convert the already successful automated options to take advantage of that super powerful overnight phenomenon. So let's actually take a look at a few more examples so you guys can see this in action during the first week of September. Now, keep in mind, Monday was Labor Day. Okay, so the markets were closed the first day of the week. But let's go ahead and kick off with our first trade, which would have been Tuesday, September 2nd, after the holiday. As expected during the day, September 2nd, guess what? The markets did a whole lot of nothing. They gained 0%. So if you bought and held during the day, you probably walked away empty-handed. But anyone trading overnight options could have placed a quick trade right at 3:30 p.m. just before the closing bell. Sure enough, markets moved. Not a huge move there, but a nice little 0.3% gain overnight. And folks trading these overnight options could have seen $735 automatically hit the account just on that little gap. So same thing here if you go to the next day, September 3rd, which was Wednesday. Anyone buying stocks during the day, probably taking a beating, right? If you're trading call options, you're really taking a beating.
Mm-hmm.
But if you trade the over-under option with me right at 3:30, take away the noise during the day, you would have pocketed a nice $535 as the market picked up overnight. And no one's a surprise. Guess what? Happened again the next day, Thursday, September 4th. Now, this time, the markets actually were quite strong during the day. But regardless of what's happening during the day, I went ahead and set my trade just before that closing bell. In this case, the markets gained a nice little 0.4%, nothing to write home about, but more than enough to hit our target there and generate $857 in automatic income overnight, cashed out without you even looking at the chart. Now, funny enough, the markets actually ended up selling off during the day, which does happen more often than not, kind of balancing that out. But to us, that doesn't matter one bit because the overnight options are designed to automatically cash out in the morning as soon as we get that small move long before that midday trading action takes over. In this case, we're already out on the sideline with a nice, healthy profit in hand, not worried one bit about the market selling off later.
Yeah, I really love that. That's a huge benefit. Now, let me pause you for a moment. First off, this is a major breakthrough in trading. I mean, that's really, really shocking to see that over time, the S&P during the day, buying the open, selling the close, has made investors nothing. And all the money's overnight. Now, I've been doing this for 15 years now. I've worked with all sorts of professionals. I've worked with hedge fund managers who took on $700 million portfolios, market makers who have traded as much as $200 billion a day. I've worked closely with banking VPs, derivatives experts, true market wizards, but I've never seen anyone figure out how to leverage the returns of this blatant market phenomenon. Because like you said, typically you need a big, big move to make any sort of gains. However, you're now able to do it on just a tiny overnight move in the stock market. How is that even possible? Do we have to do some sort of complex pre or post market trading here? Are we doing futures? Like what's going on here?
Well, no. I mean, as I said, we're actually just doing the same trade right at 3:30 p.m. during regular market hours, just about every day. Now, this trade should take a beginner about 2 minutes to kind of figure out if you're watching me step by step. And then the cool thing is here, after just a few of these, it becomes second nature for my members. They know this trade inside and out. And you can take advantage of it all week long. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, 4 overnight options per week. Spoiler alert, I do avoid the weekends because basically you're getting more volatility over the weekend and you're getting no extra reward for that in this particular setup. So let's go ahead and take a look at the very next week in September. Just kind of keep rolling along here. So we had September 8th there, $528, even though the markets actually did fall off and would have been a loser for most people, but for us, a nice winner. Then you had September 9th. Overnight trade was a mile in the clear, $582 on that one. Then Wednesday, this is a cool one. Stocks got drilled during the day. Like you would not have been wanting to hold that, but you get at the end of the day, overnight options, immediate hit by the next morning, $616. And then Thursday going into Friday, another $371 hitting there overnight.
Well, Nate, all in all, we're looking at another week worth more than $2,000, $2,098 for the week here. And you could have earned that $2,000 by clicking a few buttons to set the trade, and then the job is done. The trade is then designed to close out automatically for you the next day. No babysitting it, nothing like that. So once the trade is set, you're free to go live life and then back at it again on Monday.
That's exactly right. It's actually one of my favorite parts of the trade. Now, again, to be clear, our back testing was off the charts. I mean, better than I could have imagined because we tried to convert that trade into overnight. You never really know what's going to happen. But our live trades have actually been even better because our winners have been more significant. They've been about 1.5 times bigger than what the back test showed was possible. But again, doesn't mean we swing, we win every trade. We don't swing for the fence and hope we're going to, get this one to be the right trade. But you don't have to do that. The average entry on overnight options is under $100 per contract. So you can definitely start small and then scale over time like so many of my students have done. Like go back to February. Now in February, not a great time to be long stocks, right? If you're, invest in the broad market, basically you're going to make zero, probably lost money. If you're doing call options, you're definitely losing money. But with the overnight options, completely different story, even in a pretty ugly month. So February 3rd, $588. February 4th, $535. Even though the markets only gained 0.1% overnight there on February 4th. That's a tiny move. Wednesday, $513. You can see, again, not a huge gap there. And then Thursday, this is one of my favorite examples. Look how ugly this is. February 6th, going into Friday, boom, $535. And just that little pop there, even though the markets looked actually ugly by the end of the day and sold off. Yeah, so another 2173. We keep showing these, 500 bucks, 500 bucks, 500 bucks, add up 2173 there. Not bad for a week's wages, right? But if you think that's good, wait until you see this, because remember, this is where it really gets fun. Typically, all we need in the stock market is just that tiny move, right? That 0.1, that 0.2, and then we're golden. We're going to be looking to lock in, which we know happens more often than not, just simply based on the data. But what's really fun is that we use a risk-cutting technique where we can actually get our profit even when the market falls slightly overnight. For example, let's actually go to the next trade here on February 10th. So per the usual, February 10th, the market's barely budged, right? The trade just slightly lower from open to close there, as you can see. Nothing to write home about. And so if you're trading during the day, you're bleeding cash. However, take the overnight trade right at 3:30 p.m., like we do every day. Anyone who followed along, look how crazy this is, could have captured a nice $535 overnight on that trade. Now, the shocking part here is that if you're just looking at this chart, you probably noticed the markets fell slightly overnight. So the gap is actually still net down, but that's because of that trick that we use automatically baked into every single trade. The best part about this is you could have pocketed another winner while most folks are making zero or losing money. And just spin on to the next day. You take your money, even though it looks ugly, risk off the table, back into that sweet, safe cash, looking again to do it the next day, which would have worked great because, again, look what happened. The markets actually did grind lower over the rest of the day.
Well, Nate, I have to admit, it's really remarkable what you've done here right now. I mean, not only have you taken this age-old phenomenon and turned it into a hidden gold mine, and you're reducing the risk, you're maximizing the profits, like you said, even better than the back test. But even more impressive is that you're doing it with an 81.2% win rate on nearly 200 overnight trades already on the books. Again, not a back test, live tradings right here. With each one of the winners, you said around 500 at the start. It's a little bit better than that, actually. You're averaging $612 on average there, and that includes some incredible profits, even when the market fell against you. And the stories coming in each and every day are, quite frankly, they're getting overwhelming at this point. Let's just hear some more of the top ones. Here we have my win rate's 85%, total trades over $3,000. Lester here loves it. He drives semis, can't watch the markets. No worries. He's loving this easy set and forget it method, up $1,500. Ed here, alerts are timely, easy to follow, 80% win rate, over $5,100 in gains. Chad here, look at this. He's taken 60 trades so far. That's quite a bit of trades. 51 of those were winners, $6,000 in total profit. Here's Philip, 24 trades, 86% win rate. Loving it right now. So Nate, time to tell us, how can we get in on the next overnight option?
Okay, so obviously the key here is that you have to structure the trade the right way, right? Because you have to take advantage of this overnight phenomenon. You can't, just blindly go. You have to know which trade you're actually going to set up here at 3:30 p.m., which is why I'm going to show you everything you need to know to deploy your first overnight option right away so that anyone can start using this brand new method to target extra overnight income right away. I always say it doesn't matter who you are, young or old, or where you live. Anyone can do this. You guys can do this. You're welcome to get started with me today. And I'm going to hold a live step-by-step workshop that just walks you through exactly how you can start targeting these overnight payouts with just a few clicks of the mouse. It's going to include full details from how to place your first trade to how the overnight options actually work, including how to automate those exits for maximum gains, which is super important. And I'll actually walk you through that risk cutting technique that, just boosts that win rate up and gives us a little bit of protection in the overall market, which gives us extra peace of mind because really that's what lets so far 4 to 5 times you're going to hit that target and walk away with the winner. Now, typically my strategy classes would be, $497 or $997. But today, I'm going to give you guys a chance to join me for that entire class, A to Z, for free. And once you get your hands on that workshop, I think you'll actually be stunned at how clear-cut it really is because you'll be able to start using this up to 4 times per week with a simple mechanical trade. Just a few buttons. You can get that trade locked and loaded. And folks, that's it. You just walk away, just like we did recently in June. June 2nd, personally set up the trade just before the closing bell. Anyone following along could have collected extra income hands-free because the brokerage is going to lock you into that trade automatically, $535. Then did it again the next day, June 3rd. Quick minute, make sure that overnight option is set. Let it go to work for you. $535 once again the next day.
Nate, I love it. I'd love to be enjoying the morning coffee while $1,000, $500, whatever it may be, hits the account hands-free when everything worked out. Of course, any regular brokerage account will work, right? Nothing crazy here.
Yeah, any brokerage. I mean, we have students. You guys will see them in the room. Interactive Brokers, Tasty, Robinhood, Schwab, Fidelity, everything you can imagine. And we actually have a lot of folks who do it in a 401k or an IRA as well. And if you want to see just how powerful these overnight options are with your own eyes, well, then you're going to want to join me for our class. We're going to do a trade live, targeting an extra $500 by tomorrow morning. That way, you can follow along, watch over my shoulder, and essentially copy and paste the trade in a matter of a couple minutes. Remember, once the trade is set, your job is done. Overnight options are designed to automatically close out for you the next day without you doing an extra thing, looking at the charts, waiting for an exit signal, nothing. Now, once you see the newest breakthrough, and this is where things really get fun, I think you'll understand why I am saying doing these trades, following along with your daily opportunity is going to be easier than it's ever been before. And you can get started with a new trade today, plus each and every one of them going forward. All you have to do is subscribe to my exclusive group called Overnight Options. Join in and you'll get access. This service is solely dedicated to targeting extra income overnight, thanks to a new way to take advantage of that age-old market phenomenon. Now, I'm happy to verify that after live trading about 200 of these opportunities, here's what the data shows, guys. Small account friendly. The average contract is $70, so anyone can do this. $612 is the average target based on a 2.5K stake. So really juicy income there. Honestly, you're typically holding the market for like an hour of actual market action. And then, of course, my favorite part, 81+% win rate. So more than 4 to 5 times you're walking away with a winner. Now, I'll show you how that actually stacks up over time. Now, whether you've been investing for years or just beginning, it's pretty impressive to see that. But if you take one of the limited memberships today in overnight options, here's what you're going to get. Every single day, Monday through Thursday, I'm going to give you my very best overnight option opportunity. This is one that I would personally recommend to my closest friends and family, one that I'm personally trading in my own account. So over 200 overnight options every single year. Each one, based on the same method that we show, targets $612 4 times a week. So just, again, try to stack up those profits. Now, every single alert breaks it down step by step by step in plain English for you. The ticker, when to place the trade, the option criteria, the entry, the exact exit details, it's all in there. Every alert has clear instructions, how to place the trade. Listen, guys, I do the heavy lifting because I'm trading these, and all I'm doing is packaging it up and sending it to you in easy to follow instructions. All you got to do is read the alert and follow along if you want to go ahead and take the trade with me.
Well, Nate, I mean, you just showed us the first 2 trades of June. Again, these are real-time trades you sent out to people, just like every single person tuning in right now. Hit 535, then 535 again. Let's see what came next. June 4th, the next day. Members got that trade alert in their inbox right at 3:30 p.m. that day. You never have to guess when it's going to come. I love that. It's always coming at the same time. Anyone who took that trade could have hit here the next morning, $551 automatically clocked out, sitting in the brokerage account.
Well, it doesn't get much better than that, right? I mean, just those automatic target setting is so fun. And by the way, you don't have to sit next to your computer all day long, folks. I post a trade right at 3:30 every day. You have plenty of time to get in. You can set your watch by it right before the market closes, because I want your experience with overnight options to be as hands-free as possible. Of course, you'll also get those, cell phone and Telegram alerts just to make sure you always know when a trade is coming out. For example, like the very next day that Graham showed, you would have gotten an email, you'd have gotten the text and Telegram, taken the trade if you wanted to. And sure enough, this was a whopper, $1,029 automatically without you doing a thing there. And yes, of course, I will keep track of the overnight options performance for you, so you can just easily see at a glance how we're doing, especially compared to the S&P 500.
Well, Nate, it looks like you're doing everything you can to make sure the new members have everything they need to succeed. And you've been doing this for about a year now. People are just raving about it. And we're excited to get more folks on board today. I mean, across that 1 week of trades you just showed us, again, very real trades sent out in real time, we're looking at $2,652 in extra income. It's funny, that weekly income number is always right around the same right there. $2,652, very, very consistent. Guys, this isn't like missing out on Amazon in 1999. These are trades that you just took, you shared with folks in real time. And again, that's after 4 trades. As a member, you get up to 200 of these each and every year. So Nate, I have to know, what do you say we start this membership cost maybe at $26.52 per year? That way you got it covered in a week, no problemo.
Well, I think especially because of those new enhancements, If you miss out today, it'll probably run you a little bit more than that because, and you'll see why. Trust me, we're making it worth your while. But if you are in the room today, thanks for being here. You're actually getting a much, much juicier offer than that because after taking nearly 200 of these, all different market conditions, flash crashes and everything else, all live trades we've taken out, I've been blown away by the results from overnight options. In fact, if you account for every single trade, winning and losing weeks, if you started with 5K in each trade, it would have already paid out $32,000 in net profits, guys. That's without compounding, without rolling. And that's in under a year's time. So let me just say it again. All types of markets, bear market, bull market, crashes, good economies, bad ones, election, everything else. If you start with 5K, just consistent, no compounding, you end up with $32,086 in profit in less than a year, just swinging the bat, doing nothing else.
And Nate, just to clear, this is the live trade results, right? This is not the back test. This is what's been happening in real time.
These are if you just over the last 11 months took every trade that we've actually published in real time, audited, verified results. So if you compare that, by the way, to the S&P 500 over the same period of time, not even close, right? $5,000 in the S&P is going to get you $920 a year. Meanwhile, we're at 32,000, actually a little more because it's a little bit less than a year in that same time. It's not even close. And that's because we have the ability to pile up those opportunities like we kept showing. 4 times every week you get that opportunity. So with that type of data and a massive edge that I think we've now proven beyond a shadow of a doubt in the stock market, I'm sure we could sell this for $29.95 per year. I mean, it's 200 trade alerts a year. No problem at all. This could be one of the most premium services we have. But to celebrate our live success from those trades so far, real winners with members, including, by the way, hitting our 150th winner this very month. Congratulations for all of you guys who are in on that. I'm going to have some fun here. We're going to open up a very limited special with 150 spots to celebrate those 150 winners. And if you're one of the 150 who takes action on this incredible deal, we're going to go ahead and knock an extra $1,000 off the price. We're just going to take it down to about $19.95 per year. But that's not all. We've got a little extra sauce here for you because there's something I hinted at earlier that actually takes overnight options to a whole new level. Now, these alerts are not just random. They're designed to activate after a very specific set of options data that triggers on just a handful of opportunities. Now, according to our back test, that's really what jumped the win right here from like 65% if you just kind of swing the bat on those overnights, all the way up to over 81%. Now, to get an edge that strong, we're obviously not just picking willy-nilly trades, right? We're not just throwing a dart at the options train. After extensive research and testing, we developed a system to only isolate the most optimal options. And I really mean that, the most optimal. This is the sweet spot. It's designed to keep us out of the ruts when we get some harsh market-wide sell-offs. But really, what's most important here, it's designed to jack up that win rate and have highest conviction possible when we're going to put our hard-earned money on the line. Now, obviously, the details there, it's way too much information to cover today. We've already been going almost an hour, and I wouldn't give that away for free anyway.